And by the way, I didn't chastise the kids at Charlie Kirk's event. I warned them. I warned them that if you're supporting the destruction of a captive, stateless people in Gaza right now, that you will never be able to claim to be pro-life again without being rightfully viewed as the biggest hypocrite in the universe. That's an opinion that I will gladly defend. And I noticed in there, you're not actually taking on that argument. You're just telling me how disgusting I am for having it. So listen, man, I think that if there's one thing Charlie would have wanted, it probably would have been for us to have this conversation without devolving into insults. You can say it's disgusting if you want to. I think there's a pretty strong argument for my point there. I think it's kind of undeniable. There's a real conflict between being pro-life and then also supporting a policy, the price tag of which is tens of thousands of slaughtered babies, children.
Well, on that point, Officer Tatum, I will let you respond, but let me just put that directly to you, because one of the reasons that I've become increasingly critical of Netanyahu's government, and you interviewed Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago on your YouTube show, and we'll play a clip from that in a moment, but one of my, and he won't do my show, just for the record, since the war started, because I think one of the reasons he won't do me is because I would say to him, you're not achieving any of your war aims. You know, you're not getting the hostages released. In fact, if anything, I'd say you're imperiling their lives more every day as goes on. You're not defeating Hamas, that much is clear. You're causing endless more devastation. Your cabinet right-wing members like Smodrich, Ben-Gvir and others, they're talking openly about ethnically cleansing all the Palestinians. You know, are you not concerned, Officer Tatum, with a fair-minded head about this, that actually it is no longer about a retaliatory self-defensive strike for what happened on October the 7th, but part of a much bigger plan, which many on the hard right in Israel have harbored for a long time, to displace Palestinians from their home in Gaza and from large swathes of the West Bank? Does that not concern you?
Okay, great question. Let me address a few things. I think that Nick Fuentes is disingenuous, and I felt like Dave Smith is intelligent enough, and I'm not challenging your intelligence, but I believe that you can see through the bullcrap on so many other people, and I felt like you should have seen the bullcrap through Nick Fuentes, because he's just saying that to save face now that Charlie is dead, and all the way up to his death, he shamed him. When it comes to the pro-life situation, there's a very big difference between articulating whether a person believes that life starts at conception, not perception, versus a person disagreeing with urban warfare and the way that Israel is carrying out their attacks in Gaza. That's two different things. They should not be conflated. When it comes to my concerns for Benjamin Netanyahu and his tactics in Israel, or his tactics against Gaza, there's a few things here. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, and because the nature of the interview wasn't really a debate, it was more so me asking him questions that my audience wanted me to ask him and him putting the answers out there, and people can debate that. But I think a lot of people that I know in Israel, including myself and others that are staunch Zionists, think that he is prolonging the war too long and is causing too much damage and irreversible reputational damage. He should have ended it sooner, and he should have went harder. In America, if we had faced such brutality, rape, people getting their heads cut off. I saw videos of people getting their heads cut off. We would have been swift. Within 48 hours, we would have caused the most damage that you've ever seen to a country in world history. And Netanyahu, for whatever reason, is capitulating, in my personal opinion, to his own personal image, and that he don't want to look bad. He don't want to be shamed. He don't want people to say,
yeah, the war criminal's real concerned about his appearance,
that he's committing a genocide. So he's playing in the middle for too long. 2 years of this war is too much. He should have eliminated Hamas immediately, and he should not worry about the naysayers. He's darned if he do, he's darned if he don't.
So from this buffoon's in this buffoon's opinion, Netanyahu didn't go hard enough. The guy that got war crime charges for everything he didn't go hard enough for this idiot.
Is not committing a genocide in Gaza. I think that's disingenuous at best, because no one committing a genocide will be giving food or aid to a people that they're trying to kill. They would not be sending leaflets and advising people of buildings that they're going to tear down. The population has grown in Gaza from 1948.
That warrant for starving them all kind of says a different thing there. Like, you could say he gave it to them all you want. When we see starving children, we kind of know they're not giving it to them. They didn't get those shipments. So I don't know what he's talking about.
All the way up until today, 500,000 they started with, they're at 2 million at this point. When did the genocide start? There is no genocide. People can argue the tactics that Netanyahu is displaying in Gaza, but you cannot be superfluous and add these arguments that seems to, in my opinion, be anti-Semitic in many ways. It's not.
Now, he just said earlier that they got to stop calling everything anti-Semitic. Now we're talking about criticizing Israel, and he just did the exact same thing. Just said it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. After saying just seconds ago, if you do that, you're going to make everybody hate you. And he wonders why everybody hates him now.
These people are terrorists, and not the Gazan people, the regular everyday individual, the terrorist group that came into a country and attempted to commit a genocide against Israel. They would have committed a genocide against Israel to a large proportion if it wasn't for the IDF and if it wasn't for the Iron Dome. Let's not forget they shot 4,000 missiles into Israel. They tried to kill everybody. The IDF is going in strategically. I wish that people had not died. I wish that they could end the war so there's no suffering. I wish that Hamas wasn't stealing food. The UN confirmed that 96% of all the aid is being looted. I wish that Hamas wasn't doing those things. I wish that Hamas would take the approach of Israel, which means when the rockets go flying into Israel, the people go into bomb shelters. When rockets go flying into Gaza, the terrorists go into bomb shelters, and they make their people stay above ground to be the blunt force of what they receive in a war that they started for no reason. Hamas knew they could never beat.
And one of the greatest intelligence organizations in the world can't figure out a way to just put poison gas in those tunnels. that would solve your problem right there. Or just send a fucking team down. You telling me they can't figure out like where the tunnels are in like part of their own land, basically, like land that they're like the reservation, I guess, for the Muslims? Like, you can't figure out where those tunnels are and invade them and just get the Hamas people? No, you don't want to, because then you still got all these buildings and people are going to have a place to live. Ethnic cleansing works different. You've got to get them all out of there. And the only way to do that is take away their homes, take away everything they have, and then move them somewhere else.
The IDF in Israel. Why did they start the war? Why did they initiate conflict? Why did they rape people and do things like that and videotape it?
Why did Israel do that in the jail cells and even get the dogs involved? Like, this motherfucker just ignores all the information that makes Israel look bad and kind of uses it against the other side. Oh, were there a lot of those happening, SAs happening like during this attack with guns firing and shit? I doubt it. But I know they're happening a lot in the prisons because like they rioted to try and keep them.
Why do they still have hostages? And
you know the
it?
unpalatable answer, Officer Tatum, I'll come to Dave Smith as well, but the unpalatable answer to that, maybe they did it precisely to goad Israel into a massive overreaction, which would then make Israel and its government in particular hugely unpopular around the world, to the extent that the United Nations is convening today with the UK declaring a state of Palestine. They're going to be followed by other countries. Only really America and Israel's opposing this, but
look at him shaking his head because Palestine gets to be a place too, right? But only Israel has a right to exist because Palestine doesn't, I guess. For Officer Tatum here,
it may well be that Hamas, being a bunch of evil terrorists, thought if we do this, Israel will massively overreact. They don't care about their own people dying. That's completely obvious, and it could well play into our longer-term game plan. Who knows? But it could be that. In which case, they've fallen for a hideous sucker punch. Dave Smith, your response to, a lot to unpack there, but your response. And then also taking in this news today about countries like the UK, declaring there is a state of Palestine.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Brent kind of almost hit every single talking point there. So I don't know. I mean, I've been knocking all these down for
good Hasbara student
for years on your show here. The bottom line is just that it is just, look, to sit here and say that even as you say, obviously Pierce, it's not like Hamas had to be rocket scientists to figure this out. This is what terrorism is. It's asymmetrical warfare. The action is in the reaction. Osama bin Laden didn't think he could take down the United States of America by taking out our towers. He thought he could lure us into a war in Afghanistan and that might bankrupt us. It was the plan that our CIA coached him through in the late 70s and early 80s with luring the Soviets into Afghanistan. And so the idea that, and look, we did it. We blew $8 trillion in the Middle East since then. And so that's the idea here. And Israel's completely fallen into the trap. But of course, the reason why that Israel has done irreversible reputational damage, the reason why people are abandoning supporting this is really just twofold. Number one, it's clearly not in America's interest. And number two, this is just indefensible. Even if you say that, hey, look, Hamas goes down into the bomb shelters and leaves the civilians up there to be bombed. Okay, but then ain't there a moral question about whether it's the right thing to do to just drop those bombs on the civilians when you know the terrorists are down in the towers? Hold on, you had a chance to go through all this stuff. So
I know, but I want you to. Can I just
you just went off on every talking point,
and I'll shut up. No, just explain that
okay,
too.
but let me.
I'm just going to finish.
I'm just going to finish.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to finish what I did. Well, what they should do is embrace a two-state solution. Ultimately, they should stop occupying a people as they've been
done
doing
it 5 times, and the Arabs rejected it.
No, they haven't. Okay, now
5 times, and the Arabs rejected it.
Yeah, I get it. I know you're going to hit every Hasbro talking point. That's not true.
There's
been
facts.
lots of books. No, it's not. It's a talking point. It is not true. The Palestinians have never once been offered a full-fledged state. There is not one of those 5 times that they were ever offered a full state. Even, by the way, that's not even your own Hasbro talking point. You're supposed to say 97% of what they wanted, which also is a lie. The point is that it doesn't, no matter what you're going to say here, Israel propped up Hamas for years to keep them in power so that Netanyahu could thwart the creation of a Palestinian state, to then use them as a justification for mass slaughtering a captive people that you have kept stateless for 60 years is morally indefensible. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to actually paint the full thing out. When I was talking about the pro-life analogy, yes, being pro-life is about believing that life begins at conception, but baked in there is also the assumption that you think it's wrong to murder kids. Like the point is that yes, if you're pro-life, then you also
murder kids.
Yes, but you're supporting a policy that is doing just that.
There's no policy to murder kids. It's urban warfare. Unfortunately, people die.
So if it's not a policy, all those dead kids don't count, I guess. Good thing the people that make war crime warrants don't see it that way.
No, call it a different policy that says you should murder kids in this.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that is. Look, when you make a decision to drop a bomb on a building where you know there are children inside of it, yes, morally speaking, you murdered those children.
Phone calls. You told them
so
to
the leaflets make
evacuate.
it not murder. Okay. So how about when they don't?
There's no
How about this
intent.
last attack?
There's no
How
intent
about,
to
hold
murder
on.
them.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Follow up. How about when they don't?
Please do.
What about when they don't drop leaflets? What about when they don't have evacuation orders? They just did this in Gaza City yesterday. How about that? Is that now murder?
Well,
I
they
just
don't
took
have
away
to.
your excuses.
No. I could give you an example. They don't have to drop leaflets and give phone calls if they're
So then
operating
why are you bringing
out of
that
military.
up?
I'm saying when you're shooting weapons and Hamas is firing weapons and using it as a military base, they don't have to give leaflets to give evacuation. It's that if it's a civilian building or something where they can eliminate having casualties, they will do that to the best of their ability. But there's some instances where they can't give notification because Hamas is operating out of these hospitals, operating out of mosques, and they have to do what they have to do in this warfare.
They have to. No, they don't. They actually don't have to.
What should they do then?
Do this.
What should they do
By the way,
then,
I love
what
Pierce.
should they do?
I love I love Pierce. I think it was Aaron Matei who coined this phrase. I could be wrong about that, but someone said the entire Israeli case rests on you saying that nothing justifies October 7th, but October 7th justifies anything. Like nothing. You're sitting here. Yes. Look,
what should they do?
Pick one side or the other. One second. You can pick one side. I'll answer that question, but just interrupting my point with that question over and over again is just so I can't make my case. There is no, you can go tit for tat here. There's been terrorism on both sides. Israel has been occupying Gaza and the West Bank / and or controlling Gaza and the West Bank since 1967. There's going to be resistance to that. And then for you to say that resistance now justifies us slaughtering people by the tens of thousands, destroying all of Gaza is just, there's no logic in it. There's no morality in it. What should Israel have done? Number one, Benjamin Netanyahu should have resigned on October 8th. After his plan to prop up Hamas, being this genius right-winger that I'm going to keep Hamas in power because, in his words, he could control the height of the flame and this will balance things and thwart a Palestinian state. When that blew up in his face, he should have resigned in disgrace that day. They should have had a real investigation about what actually happened on October 7th. Our late friend had some questions about that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
They should have really looked into that, which we've never gotten to the bottom of. And then they should have done surgical strikes, targeted assassinations, as Israel has always done throughout their entire history with the terrorism problem. They have never, until Netanyahu, treated it as a problem for the regular old army, and it should have culminated in a real peace process. They should have said, we are going to take out the people responsible for this by targeted strikes. And at the end of that, we're ending the occupation. We're giving all of East Jerusalem, all of the West Bank, and all of Gaza to the Arabs. It's their decision what they want to do in the future. But if we are attacked, we will treat them as a foreign nation and go to war with them. That's what the response to October 7th
And by the way,
should have been.
Officer
Not
Tatum,
this.
I think the biggest mistake Netanyahu has made, of many actually, in terms of tactics and strategy, was the attack in Doha, which failed. It didn't kill any of the Hamas commanders. But the amount of fury that has created amongst the Arab countries, from Saudi Arabia, the UAE and others, but also apparently, according to Haaretz, amongst Mossad, who are absolutely furious about that attack on one of America's main allies in the Middle East, someone with 10,000 American troops in a base there, to just attack with impunity Qatar and to attack people who were at that moment deliberating over a potential peace plan. And then to fail anyway. So you cause all the mayhem without achieving the goal. It seemed to me symptomatic of where Netanyahu's got to. He's not achieving any of the goals here. He's just making things worse and worse.
Right, Pierce.
I think that one could argue that. I'm not disagreeing.
Right, Pierce. I'm sure Mossad was real upset because they don't like a lot of killing. They want to keep everybody alive so they can get them in an Epstein sting type shit. Right? Right? Because they're really good people. Fuck Mossad.
I think that there needs to be an investigation into it and figure out what should we do and what should we not do. America knew that he was going to do the attack. There's no way in the world Israeli jets can fly through airspace without America knowing about it and do that attack. So America gave the green light pretty much. And then we go, I want to go back to some of the things that Dave Smith said. You know, it sounds cute to act as if they're just indiscriminately bombing people. They're doing strategic strikes. They have to get approval to do strikes. We know that they're doing it. People don't like it. It's ugly. I get it. I hate that it's happening. I would have ended the war in 48 hours and it would have been a mass casualty situation. However, we would have been done quicker and it would have been 2 years. The two-state solution idea, why are we lying to ourselves? They don't want a two-state solution. They want Israel to be absolved. They do not want a Jewish state. They made it clear, I don't know for how many years.
That just came out of the guy's mouth who is defending the people doing the ethnic cleansing. Like they want them to exist, right? That's why they blew up all their shit and moved them to another country, because they really cared about keeping them going.
Netanyahu, they removed Jews from Gaza and gave it to them. And what did they do in return? They elected a terrorist organization that extracted funding and resources from them to build tunnels to create terrorism against Israel. They cannot live in peace with these people. They continue to fight against Israel in a Jewish state. And I don't understand why we're acting as if that's not so. They gave them their own sovereignty to a certain degree. Imagine if they had their own state.
So, yeah, they did elect terrorists. But who propped those terrorists up, right? Netanyahu is the one who backed all those terrorists because he said he could control the height of the flame. So this all still comes back on the people. Like he acts like they were given so many rights. They were basically slaves, just didn't have to work.
Tatum, Officer Tatum, do you think, Officer Tatum, that Palestinians should have the same rights, human rights, as Israelis?
Let me put it in perspective.
It's a yes or no.
I will.
No, you can't equivocate.
Answer it.
You either believe that or you don't. The reason I'm asking you, it's so central.
Let me start with your.
Now, if he would have asked, wait, does Israel have a right to exist? And you said anything other than yes, he would have fucking freaked out on you. But he can't answer this question.
Let me answer your question
Brandon,
first.
it's so central.
Let me answer your question first. Yes.
Okay, good.
The answer is yes.
Good.
But let me articulate that there was a war fought, and Israel won the war. So they don't have to do anything for anybody.
Wait, what war are you talking about?
1948. Was that not a war that was fought? They got attacked on all sides.
There's been many wars since then.
Yeah, Israel's had like 50 wars since then. They start a new one every week because they're warlords.
Solution. After they rejected the two-state solution, a war was fought, they won. Every war that has been fought, Israel has won. They've been victorious. They don't owe Palestinians anything, but they're peaceful people.
Which war gave them? Which war gave them the right?
They don't owe them. They don't owe Palestinians anything.
Right. Yeah. No. Actually, I mean, they only owe them what we all owe each other, I suppose. But what? I mean,
you can make that argument, but that's not a real argument.
Yeah, it is. What war did Israel win that gave them the right to occupy the Palestinians in perpetuity for all of history?
Let's bring into it. But first of all, I don't know why you think it's an occupation. Jews have lived in Israel since the beginning of time, never ceasing to exist in Israel. They were the majority, became the minority.
Yes,
they never ceased to exist
are not
in Israel.
related at all.
Let me finish.
Yes,
let me finish. What I'm saying is that
I think it's an occupation because
that's not entirely true either, because they did import quite a bit of Jewish people after World War II to start up Israel. Like, that is not people who just live there for centuries. That's not the people that live in Israel. That is mostly European Jews that came there after World War II. So he's mistaken here. We'll call it that.
It's a military occupation.
Jews, what I'm saying is that Jews have entitlement to the land. Palestinians don't have exclusive entitlement. So when a war is fought, the Jews can make the decision what they do with Palestinians or not. Just like in America, we can say what we want to do with the Native Americans or not.
Ask you,
let me finish. Let me finish my point, and I'll answer your question.
Okay, sure.
Just real quick. It'll be a couple seconds. But because we have humanity and dignity, we allow for Native Americans in America to have reservations, and we support them in all of the above. Because Israel and
do we let them vote? Yeah, we do.
Jews have dignity. They allow them to have swaths of the West Bank, and they allow them to have Gaza, where they elected their own government system. Now, do Israel have control? I see why. Can't you see? If they had absolutely no control, they had no idea what was coming in through the southern border, through the sea, how much more of a terrorist attack would we see in Israel? It would be even more massive. So I understand that. But when they were offered a two-state solution, why did they reject it?
All right, Dave.
Again, I don't know what period of time you're talking about, what war you're talking about, but so here's a major difference. You might notice this, Pierce, between Native Americans, say in the United States of America. You know, they have citizenship and voting rights, and so at a certain point, if you're going to say okay, yes, that's right. Now, how about the Palestinians living under Israeli control in the West Bank? They do not have citizenship or voting rights. And so if
they don't have citizenship in Israel.
Right,
they
and
do.
Israel's the government that's
elections.
Controlling.
They have elections, don't they?
Listen, Brennan, think about what you're advocating for. That's not you're not addressing the point here. They don't have citizenship in that. You just said that, hey, you understand why Israel is going to control these areas because in your estimation, there'd be more violence if they didn't control these areas. Now, I disagree with that estimation, but whatever. Okay, but then you're saying Israel has control and these people don't have citizenship or voting rights in Israel. If Israel is controlling Gaza and the West Bank and they've got millions of people there who don't have citizenship or voting rights, don't have any say in that government, what would you call that? By the way, we could I could make the argument that there'd be less crime if we just occupied high crime black neighborhoods in America, stripped all the people of their voting rights, of their civil rights, of their natural rights, and we just had a military occupation. But I think we would all accept you're not allowed to do that to people because we're like
Dave, your argument
living in the post-Enlightenment.
Your argument is not a real argument. They don't
you keep saying
control
that, but you can't take
Gaza. Hey, listen, okay, let's give it. If they actually
Israel doesn't control Gaza.
No. If they actually control Gaza, okay, let me answer. If they actually control Gaza the way you're saying it, they would have never elected Hamas, and they would have never built tunnels, and they would never stole funding and manipulated the people, and they would never treat women the way they do, and they would never throw people off buildings.
Why would they have never done that? Why would they have never done that if what I'm saying is true?
If Israel controlled them, They don't control them. They left them to their own devices.
Okay, so just to be
and in the West
so let's
Bank,
just be very
the
clear.
PLO has manipulated the people. That's why they have a separate election in Gaza, because the PLO had manipulated the people in the West Bank, and they didn't want that governance. So they are governing themselves.
Okay.
However, you will never see. I've been to Israel. You will never see Jews in Palestine, or what you call the West Bank. You would never see them in Gaza. But there are hundreds of thousands of Arabs and Palestinians that work in Israel. I was there. I saw it. I'm even surprised October the 7th
nobody's denying that. No, everybody knows. Israel's
what
been
I'm saying is that
Palestinian
Israel is not treating Palestinians the way that people are acting like they are.
Okay, I want to.
They gave them freedom.
Okay,
and
I've got to listen.
what they need to do.
Okay, wait a second. I've got to wrap things.
Yeah.
I've got to wrap things. But I wanted to ask Dave one question before we wrap. It's just this: this decision by the UK and other countries to declare a state of Palestine has been, ridiculed by Israelis as simply playing into Hamas's hands, giving them a reward for October the 7th. Is it meaningful to you at all?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's somewhat me. I mean, look, it's obviously a gesture more than anything else, but I do think it's significant that there's at least the feeling that there's a need to make the gesture. I think is a result of public opinion shifting so greatly on this. But I got to say to this, look, first of all, I'll just say a couple things. Number one, right after 9/11, it was Colin Powell, the wisest member of George W. Bush's government, which is not saying much, who went to George W. Bush and said, you got to do a two-state solution now. Like, you have record high approval ratings. 9/11 just happened. This is the time we can get it done. And the reason Colin Powell said that was not because he wanted to give the Palestinians something, but because he knew that this was right at the center of the cause of why there's so much hatred for Americans in the Muslim world. And that we had every single president of my lifetime, with the exception of Trump, wanted a two-state solution. None of them could ever get it done. None of them could ever get it done, in large part because of the enormous power of the Israel lobby in the United States of America.
The Arabs rejected it. Israel agreed.
I know. We heard you say that. Anyway.
No, you need to talk about that.
Yeah,
Israel
you're wrong,
agreed
but
to every single two-state solution.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Anyway,
You're telling me I'm wrong?
For
the 15th time, you're 100% wrong. Benjamin Netanyahu, the longest-serving prime minister, in Israeli history, has made at the center of his entire career thwarting a Palestinian state. He has said this in his own words over again. You don't know what you're talking about if you think
lying.
that Israel has just been
fact check.
No,
people
you're
that are
just
watching
dumb.
this fact check.
You don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Now you want to attack
You're
me?
calling me a liar.
Address the issue.
You're calling me a liar, dude, and you're full of shit.
Because
you don't know
it's factual.
You don't know
I'll tell you. Officer Tatum. Wait a sec. I actually think.
I did what?
If you want, I actually think. Listen, Officer Tatum.